Welcome back to our channel. You know, when you spend time in English-speaking countries, you'll notice locals using idioms all the time. It's funny, even when you know these phrases, they can be tricky. You might recognize them, but when it's your turn to use them, your mind goes blank. That's totally normal, and that's exactly what we're here to clarify today. In this video, we're going to break down one of these common but often confusing phrasal verbs, take off. We'll explore its various meanings, provide clear examples, and give you some tips to help you remember when and how to use it. By the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer understanding of this versatile expression. Before we dive into the details, let's start with a key point to remember. Take off always carries a sense of separation or departure from something. Keeping this core idea in mind will help you make sense of its different uses. Now, let's explore the many ways take off can be used in everyday English. We'll start with the more straightforward meanings and then move on to the ones that might be a bit trickier to use in conversation. First, we have the most literal meaning. When a plane takes off, it leaves the ground. Simple, right? You might hear, "Our flight is scheduled to take off at 2 p.m. Similarly straightforward is using take off to mean removing clothing or accessories. For example, please take off your shoes before entering the house. These two uses are pretty clear, but the following ones can be a bit more challenging to use correctly. Let's look at some more complex ways we use take off. When someone says, "I'm taking off now, see you soon," it means they're leaving a place. It's like they're separating themselves from their current location. You might hear this at a party. "It's getting late, I think I'm going to take off now." This is a very common, informal way to say you're leaving. When prices take off, they rise quickly and significantly. For instance, the stock prices took off after the company announced its new product. It's like the prices are separating from their previous level and soaring upwards rapidly. This is especially useful in financial contexts. When something takes off in popularity, it's like it's leaving the ground of obscurity and soaring into fame. Imagine a rocket launching. That's how fast and dramatic it can be. For example, that new dance craze really took off after that viral video. This use is especially common when talking about trends or new products. This idea of rapid growth applies to businesses and projects too. When a business or project takes off, it can have two different meanings depending on the context. First, it can mean a successful launch. For example, her new business successfully took off last week, meaning it started smoothly. Second, it can mean rapid success. For instance, her business really took off this year, indicating it quickly grew and became successful. Now, here's one you might use when planning your next vacation: taking off from work. This means you're separating yourself from your job for a while. "I'm taking off next week for a much-needed break" means you'll be away from work. It's a great way to let your colleagues know you'll be out of the office. You might also hear people say take time off, take leave, or simply take a break to express the same idea. Ever seen a race start? When a car or person takes off, they're starting to move suddenly and quickly. They're separating from their stationary position like a bolt of lightning. As soon as the light turned green, the sports car took off down the street. It's a vivid way to describe rapid movement. In similar situations, you might also hear phrases like speed off or dash away, but take off really captures that initial burst of speed. Finally, take off can mean imitating someone, like separating from your own personality and taking on someone else's. For example, "My brother's great at taking off our dad's voice." But honestly, you'll hear people say mimic, imitate, or do an impression of more often. So, you'd usually hear, "He's great at imitating our dad's voice" instead. Now, let's put it all together in a little story to help you remember. Imagine you're at the airport. You take off your jacket at security, then rush to your gate. As you board, you overhear someone say, "That new airline app really took off last month." You sit down, and the plane takes off into the sky. Your seatmate turns to you and says, "I'm so glad to be taking off work for a week." Just then, the kid behind you starts taking off different cartoon characters, making everyone laugh. As the plane lands, you see a car take off down the runway, probably an airport worker rushing to the next gate. See how many meanings we covered there? The key is practice and context. Don't worry if it takes time to get comfortable with all these uses. Just keep your ears open, and soon you'll be taking off with your English skills. Remember, takeoff is all about that feeling of separation or departure. Keep that in mind, and you'll find these meanings sticking in your head much better. That's all for today. Keep practicing, and don't be afraid to use these phrases yourself. The more you use them, the more natural they'll feel. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more English language tips and explanations. Until next time, happy learning!